welcome to Southnord. My name is Marta Harvey-Saxon, and I have curated this very first collections exhibition, and it's called Mindscape. And the idea is to present works that look into the inner minds of the artists or the subjects that they are portraying. We're inspired by the poet and artist T.I.E and her line, "Where do raindrops go after the rain?" And it made us curious about where do we go when we rest, when we are still, when momentum becomes inertia. Where do we go when we have a moment to ourselves, a moment with our own thoughts, when we escape into our minds? Our inner landscapes are so vast that we can easily get lost in the spacious interiority and the capaciousness of it all. This first piece is by artist and photographer Agunbiade-Kolawole, and it's part of a collection called Portray, working title. And she made about 12 or 13 of these collages based on her archival works. And it was during a time where she took a year's break from commercial work. And I love this image especially because of this figure who is reclined in rest, who's asleep on a couch, and that's actually the artist's sister. Diana has explored notions of productivity, value, and the relationship between rest and work, particularly within the migrant experience. So here we have one of three elements in a photographic work by Alexander Das Neves Lehmann, and it's called Earthbound, a visual journey into Earth's embrace. The detail that I love in this image is how the background and the person, the human, almost like melt into each other. The colors of the red stones and rocks behind really like blend into her skin tone and her hair tone, and she almost becomes one with nature. Alexandra was the first of our Up Next winners, which is an open call that we have every year focused on young artists between the age of 18 and 28. Here we have a photographic work by Rafiki, and it's part of the New African series, in which there are these dustbins that are very typical for Johannesburg, where they write the house number. And it was taken during the time when Rafiki was doing a residency at August House, downtown Johannesburg. In her works, Rafiki often uses artistic strategies that avoid a Western anthropological gaze. Incorporating symbolism, fables, and tools from oral history, she evokes themes of forced migration and war, racialized perceptions of blackness and femininity, pre-colonial heritage, power, and fluidity. This beautiful alabaster sculpture is by the artist Yemisi, and it portrays Yemisi, who is the goddess of creation, water, the moon, motherhood, and protection in the Yoruba religion. And we purchased it during Yemisi's solo exhibition in October 2024. I love the hair. There is so much detail. Yemisi is a master of working and polishing parts of the stone and leaving the rest quite rough and natural, with all the character that they came with from the earth. And I think that contrast is really super beautiful. And I love the little pouch of this mouth, and then you see she has a beauty spot that is a natural blemish in the stone. This photograph is one of three that Southnord acquired from the photographer Iduozee, and it's a series titled They Walked on Water, and it was shown in the Southnord Art Fest in 2023 at Iduozee. There's a beautiful detail about this man that we see on this image. He travels back and forth between Finland and Nigeria, and this is actually him in a river in Nigeria, having some downtime, some meditation time, some rest time, and he's swimming in a river or a lake back home. So it also kind of shows this movement that diasporic people have to do, always going back home or being in between homes in a way. This painting, which is kind of a triptych by Lidiya Solomon, who was our Up Next winner in 2024, is titled Being, and there's a lot of layering going on, bodies moving through space, private spaces, urban spaces, and Lydia's exhibition was called Blackboard Bodies Walking Around. These multiple layers and perspectives create an image that can't be captured by a single viewpoint and requires close inspection. I also like the layering of techniques. There is both painting and there's drawing, ink drawings with like the ballpoint pens. And she uses scrap wood, and so you'll see like the back side of a chipboard, the front side, and they're like put together quite rough and ready, but it's all part of the aesthetic that she like does this assemblage of materials that have lived a life before. Here we have a book by Senay Berhe. It's actually not just one book, but 5 books in one, and each book contains a single image. This project is a tribute to Barbara Bologna, the late librarian who inspired Senay to pursue creativity from a young age. This image, even though this man is really not at rest, he's carrying a very big heavy brick, you know, and his muscles are like tense and taut. His eyes are kind of in a dreamy way looking off into the horizon, and just like, it doesn't feel like he's present with us in this moment. He's thinking of something, and he's got this tiny little smile on his face that makes you really wonder, what is he thinking about? It's almost like a Mona Lisa kind of smile, very enigmatic. The tapestry here is by Muriel Makhathini, who is a South African artist based in Lund, and she is both a weaver and a poet. This is called Muriel, which is based on a poem that she wrote inspired by the events of one of her daughters getting ill while studying French in Paris. And the episode led her to think of all the people in need, not just her own daughter, and how help could be sent from afar. And I especially love this droplet of water that Muriel has woven onto this thirsty tongue. This limited edition by Magassa was produced exclusively for Black Archive Sweden, and it's called Zamzam. Magassa also works a lot with music and listening sessions, and you can kind of feel the frequency in his paintings. I feel like there's a link between frequencies and in his sonic practice and the frequencies or rhythms that you can experience in these collages as well. This cushion is designed by Damien Ajavon, and it's part of a collection that Southnord developed together with Senay Berhe. And it portrays an image of Damien's ancestor, Yemisi, using jacquard weaving techniques to bring her to life. She was the queen of Walloon region in northwest Senegal during the mid-1800s. During her reign, she fought against French colonialism and is a revered African heroine on account of her bravery. This graphic print by Frida Orupabo was made in collaboration with Grafiekens Huis and Bonnier's Kunsthal when Frida had her solo exhibition there in 2024. And we see this reclining figure of a woman with a very distinct gaze. And Frida works a lot with the gaze in her images. What I particularly love about Frida's works in general, but this one in particular, and others like it, is these empowered women. They're like unapologetic. She is reclining, I guess, in the sunshine that maybe gives the title to the piece. And she looks very relaxed and very like in her own, comfortable in her own skin. But then you have these like quirky little details where she has two hands there, but then there are other hands that are like appearing in the image, and you wonder whose hands they are and what they're doing to this woman. This double portrait by Louis Fayet is called Two by Harvey Tristan Cropper, and it's of the African-American Harvey Cropper and a self-portrait that he has painted. And Harvey moved to Sweden in the early 80s and quickly became a central figure in the city's black cultural scene. His studio became a hub of activity and a meeting point and melting pot for intellectuals and artists. And one thing that struck me about this double portrait, or especially the portrait that Harvey has painted of himself, is how he has chosen to paint himself quite dark in complexion, because if you look at him, he's very like light in complexion. And I think it's beautiful to see how the inner image of someone is not always how they appear in the world, that it's much more like the portrait is like a look into his soul in a way. And we're very happy to have this as the latest addition to our collection. Thanks for coming by!